Lots of questions and few answers. Serious socio-economic problems caused peaceful protests, first in one region and then throughout the country. A one-time increase in the price of autogas has become unbearable for those whose personal transport is an ability to survive. The words of an advisor to the Ministry of Energy, albeit an external one, cause justified outrage. If people are unhappy with these prices, they can always use public transport. Is that a problem? It all started with a peaceful protest. People took to the squares of their cities unarmed and not tuned to a conflict. But at some point, the situation changed dramatically. The crowd became larger and sometimes happened that protesters did not expect. Mass madness and aggression completely captured people, blending them into the crowd and clouding their judgment. Such behavior largely depended on the organizers and perpetrators of the riots. The public discontent became a tool in the hands of those who persuaded completely different goal to undermine the state and encroach on its integrity. Those who were supposed to warn and then protect the country from disaster continued to raise a lot of questions. The situation developed rapidly. Religious radicals, criminal elements, notorious gangsters, looters and ruffians stepped up throughout the country, literally in an instant, as if in a single command. From that moment on, it didn't matter what the peaceful protesters demanded. Provocators had a special role. Here is an example of how they work. A certain man urges to go to capture the airport. There were a lot of them on the squares those days. It is enough for one or two people to start the crowd ablaze as dozens or even hundreds of people gone rough, turning a peaceful march into riots. Take a close look at this footage. A cargo van, Gazelle, is moving along the streets of Almaty, where an angry crowd is rampaging. Two unidentified persons give out rebar to the rioters, with which the aggressive crowd smashes buildings, shops, cars and attack police officers and soldiers. Kanat Abu Bakirov is the one who came up with an idea of arming the crowd with rebar. I went to the warehouse for work on January 5th and I saw my friend Yarasil there, and then we met people who said, "You are Kazakhs, aren't you? Let's go to the rally." We were asked to leave everything in the car for self-defense. Then we had nothing in the car. We talked about it and decided to give something for self-defense. I said that I have rebar at home. Then we went home and took the rebar, cut it, and Yarasil called the driver Tahir. So we cut and prepared the rebar and loaded it into the car. And then Yarasil, Aiden, and Tahir drove on. The same Tahir who drove his car right into the heat of the riots to ignite them even more. We drove to Zharokov Street. I said there was a lot of people, no space. I wanted to turn back, but they said to go on the opposite side of the road, so I did. A little later they said to stop. When we stopped, one of them jumped out and got inside the truck, opened the door. I untied it with a wire. I didn't see what they were doing in the back. Yarasil was holding the door and throwing rebar from the car. There was not many, like 30-40 fittings. People were picking it up. We drove a little further and started giving out bread and water. As soon as the video where the process of distributing rebar was clearly visible appeared on social networks, the organizers hurried to cover their trucks, repainted and modified the way the car looked. I was shown the video on Instagram where you could see my car when the rebar was distributed. These people initially did not have banners. Each of them, as they say, was not going to go to the rally. They heard calls, succumbed to emotions and provoked far more terrible consequences. We made a fool of ourselves. We took the word of the people. There were women with children. Their words had a strong effect on me. Confessions of provocators, which the authorities of Shymkent revealed back then, are also indicative. Rioters describe how they were paid money and give energy drinks, after which they lost control of themselves. The mass theft of weapons in a number of regions also speaks of planned pogroms. How many more guns and rifles remain in the hands of those who robbed gun shops, opened erratic fire, one only can guess. But the fact is that the sleeping cells remain active. One of the recent detentions in Almaty serves as an example. 2 men were found to have a whole arsenal. Zinc boxes with 5,000 rounds of ammunition, bulletproof vests, 2 combat anti-tank shells, a shotgun, 7 air rifles and an air gun. One of the suspects in the theft of weapons is 25-year-old Jomart Alibay. According to investigators, he also with a group of friends stole 10 firearms. On January the 5th, we were at home. Since there was no internet at home and there was nothing to watch on the TV either, we went out into the city to see what was going on. We heard gunfire and decided to return home, but on the way back, we saw a crowd of people gathered on the Shalapin Street corner of Sayna Street. So we stopped because we were curious about what was going on there. They were all strangers. They were all wearing masks. It was a big crowd. We wanted to get closer and we saw boats and scooters. I thought it was a fishing shop. They gave me something in my hands, saying, take it, take it. I didn't know it was a weapon. It was just a box. But what was I supposed to do? If I hadn't taken it, they would have hit us. We were scared. We didn't know what to do. My little brother was standing behind me. Then when we go to our neighborhood, we opened this box because we wanted to know what was in there, and we saw a gun. Although the gun theft suspects were interviewed denied having any design on them, they also said that they happened to be on the scene by chance, and the fact that they ended up with the ammunition in their hands was also pure accident, although they carefully hid them afterward. I saw a weapon on the way. I was curious and I picked it up to hold it. I was afraid to leave it there, so I took it home. Then on the 9th, during the security checks at the checkpoint, I was asked about it. I confused that I had found the gun and took it home. We drove home with the police and I handed it over to the officer. Initially, when I took the weapon, I had no specific goal in my mind, just an interest. During these tragic days, gun shops have become a tasty morsel for notorious bandits and hooligans. Stealing weapons and then participating in pogroms and riots look like a whole planned campaign. In Almaty, a group of people who had stolen 15 smoothbore guns and 4 rifle carbines took part in the seizure of pogroms of the airport. 3 more persons, in addition to 8 smoothbore guns with ammunition, were found to have a single revolver, fiery bottles, gas masks and police kits. Look at this footage carefully. People with buttons and a shield valiantly smashed a police car with the law enforcement officers inside. Nauruzbay Kadırbay was particularly active during the riots. We didn't go there to break or ruin anything. I went to a peaceful rally along with those people and that's it. When I took to the street for the first time, it all started from the Almaty arena. The soldiers began to close the roads. I got out of the car and saw people attacking the soldiers. We didn't think it would happen like this. The video shows how it hit the police car 2 or 3 times. I didn't know where were police officers in the car. They came out of there. People pulled them out and started beating them. People attacked the police. I tried to stop them. People hit the officers, and I saved them from this crowd. Today, some of those who participated in the riots stormed buildings and smashed cars, robbed gun stores, attacked the police and their military personnel, provoked the crowd to take more radical measures. Attribute all these chaos to the manifestation of emotions, curiosity. At the same time, they do not fully realize their guilt, every now and then interpreting their actions in a way that will benefit them. I joined the crowd as if I was obliged to help them. People were beating the police officers. I saved them from the crowd. They gave it us, saying, "Take it, take it." Once the boss said it was necessary to go, we didn't know. Now, when the time has come to be responsible for their own actions, one suddenly remembers the responsibility to own families, children and parents. This is Kanat Abu Bakr, who, as he himself admitted, was preparing iron bars for attacks and pogroms. In despair tells about his father. My father works as an ambulance driver. And here it is appropriate to recall the violent attacks on doctors and ambulances when the criminals, heavy armed with iron bars and batons, brutally smashed and maimed those who were on their way to provide first aid to the victims in the chaos, which was organized by their own compatriots who responded to the external provocations, and those who benefited from sowing fear and frightening horror.